Welcome to Bleep Bulimia podcast with guest Anissa Hudak, founder of the Trauma Healing Yoga Therapy Program. Hi everyone, I am Lorianne. I am the host of Bleep Bulimia. And today my guest, Anissa Hudak, yoga therapist and founder of the Trauma Healing Yoga Therapy Program. Thank you so much for being with us today. I know you have a great story to share. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
So we'll start off with, I'm curious what inspired you to start the Trauma Healing Yoga Therapy Program?
You know, life is a journey. I did not wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to do this. I just kind of got here and it wound up just evolving into what it is now. I started taking teacher training classes for yoga. Never had any aspirations of actually teaching. I just wanted to keep myself on my mat and be safe. And I didn't want to go by anybody's schedule. So I didn't want to have to go to class. And I realized for me, yoga was this beautiful gift. And I wasn't necessarily teaching yoga. I was just sharing this beautiful gift. And as I continued to take more and more classes, they started offering classes for warriors, meaning active duty military. And at the time I lived in a right outside of Fort Riley, Kansas, very large military community here, active duty, retired. And my husband was active duty as well. So I was like, you know, I live in the belly of the beast. We have a warrior transition battalion here. I should really take these classes and bring them home and help my community. And I was about halfway through the first day of the first class. And I realized that the first person I had to start working on was right here. And it kind of became a self-discovery, self-recovery kind of a journey. And along with that, I've been able to help others. So again, it just kind of happened. It evolved.
That's lovely. Now, I know because I read your story. Of course, there's a lot more to it, but your overview of your story. So you had quite a life, and one that, if you can share, we were talking about trauma and how it can affect people. And obviously the yoga helps, and so that's where we're going to end this. But if you can share some of your story of your own trauma, that would be lovely.
I don't know if I've ever known a life without trauma. I kind of know it intimately, and that's not anything to brag about. I am a bereaved parent. I've lost a child. My dad was a non-vet. He had his own PTSD issues, so we had that growing up. And I'm a two-time rape survivor. So, you know, it kind of sounds like a really bad Hallmark movie. It's just my dog hasn't died and I haven't lost my job. So I know trauma, unfortunately.
And so so let's move forward. So we're doing the yoga. Did the yoga help you to deal with the trauma? Because obviously trauma is not something you just let go of. I mean, like we were saying, you know, some people, and you were explaining that, you know, eating disorders can be a consequence of trauma.
I did not realize how my PTSD had crawled into the nooks and crannies of my life and was holding me back. And as I started taking these yoga teacher training classes, I really began to realize, and I began to see why I was doing things that I was doing. Why was I making certain decisions? Why was I reacting in certain ways? And truly how it felt in my body when these things were happening. And once I got a real handle on that, then I was able to really make some progress with my healing. Quite frankly, my mat is my lifeline. I probably would not be here without my mat. It is my closest friend. It is my confidant. I can tell it anything. I love my mat because, I can say anything to it and it doesn't respond. It doesn't go anywhere. Nobody
I love
talks back. I can sit there and cry and it holds me. It's there, I'm there to sweat on it. It is my everything. In fact, a couple of years ago, I had some surgery and I took it with me to the hospital. And my husband's like, "You're not going to be on it for like 6 weeks. Why are you taking your mat?" I said, but it's my best friend. I'm kind of like Linus.
Yeah,
Like, I
I
don't want
like
to be
it. I was
without it.
thinking that. Yeah. And what's wrong with that? I mean, yeah, I think that's awesome. Do you have on it like templated you're my best friend? That'd be kind of
No, but
cute.
I regularly talk to it and talk, say nice things and give it a wash and, things like that. So, I do pamper it a
It's
bit.
spoiled. So that's wonderful. I just I know that with me, I took yoga in college and I really enjoyed it. And I don't know why I never went back to it, because there's so much. Um, okay, sorry, listeners, she just brought up a cute little dog and I just love them. Adorable.
I apologize. This is Buddy. And anytime I'm online, he has to say hello. And so he's been pestering me. I didn't know if you were hearing him. So I thought I would pick him up and say hi. So
No, I couldn't hear him, but oh, he's so cute. He's a little Yorkie, right?
yeah, he's a
Yeah.
teacup.
Teacup. Aw.
All right, now go behave. Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry.
so in regards to your healing programs, do you want to give us a little bit more of an idea of how you go about with that? And I understand it's probably way too you can't do it just in a couple of minutes, or well, we have a few more minutes, but I mean it's probably more elaborate what I'm saying than this podcast could allow for, but could you give us an idea?
Sure. So PTSD actually starts in the body before it becomes a mental health issue.
Okay.
And so we are able to utilize the yoga therapy to really the body. Your body stores the trauma on a cellular level, and we need to work it out of the body as well as, talk therapy and meds. And so you have to treat the whole person. And by utilizing the yoga therapy, we can really do that. I think one of the things that you need to be concerned with is this is not a yoga class that you would take at your yoga studio down the corner. There is a difference between yoga therapy and just regular yoga. If you were to think of yoga as a big old pie, and if you split the pie in half, on one side you have wonderful fitness-based yoga. And there's so many wonderful things that are there, Ashtanga and Bikram and, aerial yoga and co-ed naked hot yoga and all kinds of fun stuff, and they serve a purpose. They serve a wonderful purpose. Is there mindfulness there? Absolutely. However, when you go into the other side of the pie and we have therapeutic yoga, and here what we've done is we have really niched down to a specific group of people that we work with. And so you have yoga for arthritis, yoga for MS, yoga for cardiac rehab, yoga for cancer. I just happen to do yoga for PTSD. And we have very scientific methods and things that we do in our classes, depending on what our clientele's need is, again, work the trauma out of the body, bring people to a place of presence. With PTSD, people are either living in the future, they're very anxious, or they're living in the past and reliving that moment, or depression. all of that, we're able to bring them present and for them to be there on their mat in that moment, which is priceless because they're not living in the moment generally. And we're able to do it in a way that's very non-threatening. And then, of course, there's the mindfulness and other things that we bring into it. And so it's a really encompassing type of activity that you can do to add to the things that you're also doing in your PTSD recovery. Now, we had talked about food disorders, food eating disorders, and that is a type of abuse. It is just like alcohol abuse and drug abuse. It is an addictive type of behavior. And generally, addictive type behaviors stem from trauma. And whether it's one major trauma that occurred, one experience, or maybe little traumas that built up over time, either way, that's kind of the root of it. And so for your listeners, I know that it would be really important to, get on a mat, with a person who knows what they're doing. Someone who teaches fitness-based yoga, they should be incredibly educated to do what they do. However, they may not be well suited for you because you're going to have different needs if you have PTSD. You're different emotional needs and things like that, a fitness-based instructor may not be able to handle. They may not have the educational background to know what's happening. And so it's really important for you to find someone who meets your needs. Not every therapist can handle eating disorders. So you find a specialist. If you need braces, you're not going to go see a dentist. You're going to go see an orthodontist. So really finding people who meet your needs and finding someone who is a yoga therapist as opposed to just a regular yoga teacher. That's important.
That's really interesting. I literally did not know that the yoga instruction did those different groups. I really never knew that. So that's really interesting for me. And like we were talking about, you were saying that a lot of the people, yes, who get into an eating disorder, it's quite often caused by those traumas. And, there may be some, I know that I've had guests on my podcast who, they were going through post-traumatic stress disorder. So if that's the case, to my listeners, if any one of you feel that was the reason, could be a reason why you ended up having an eating disorder, this is something that's really worthwhile looking into. Absolutely. So now you do this, do you do any programs online, or is this all in person for you?
Actually, I do everything online. I am
Okay.
based in Kansas, and the cows really aren't into the yoga. I have met a few bison that dig it, but the cows just aren't grooving on it. So everything is online.
Okay, beautiful. So you have the classes, and tell us a little bit more about how that works for your online programs.
I do one-on-one. And so if you want a private session, I have those available. Right now, I'm getting ready to launch my membership. It's for women only who have experienced sexual trauma. And it's a composite of 3 different things. We have online yoga practice, which is, obviously the big thing. But we also have education and community. What I realized with, I guess with my story is I was first raped when I was 18, and I did what everybody else does. I went and I spoke with a therapist, and over the years I would go back to therapy, and I found like I was talking about the same stuff over and over, and there was no real closure. But I did what everybody does. You go see a therapist. And then about 6 years ago, I was raped again, and I kind of sat back and I put my trauma hat on, my clinician hat, and I started thinking about, okay, when I was 18 and this happened, and now, what is it that I would want? What would help me heal? The that trauma is, like all trauma probably, is very isolating. You feel like you're the only one that this has happened to. And I realized that I really wanted a community. If you look at AA or NA, they all have a community aspect to their recoveries. And I realized we didn't have one. And so I wanted to provide that for other women. You know, we don't have to talk about it. I don't need to know the details. We all know why we're there. You know, from here, let's start healing. And we can do that together. Additionally, what I realized is when I was going through my teacher training classes, I learned so much about PTSD. And when I'm learning, I realized, oh, that's me and that's what I'm doing and that's why I'm doing it. So if I make a different decision, if I choose something different, I could have, instead of reacting, I could respond. Learning to take a breath, realizing what was happening within my body in that moment. And that education, I believe, is so crucial. And so providing that kind of education, in addition to the actual yoga and the community, is the three cornerstones of that membership.
Wow. I love that. I love that. That's as I was telling you before the we were recording, you know, that being raped is it's a close story to mine, and it's hard to talk about, and those people quite often who have been raped, you know, they would talk about the shame and all of that stuff that goes along with it, and the anger and the guilt and all that stuff. So I mean, that you're doing this for women, I think is just absolutely phenomenal. And like you said, you don't have to talk about it, but to find ways to, you know, I guess what would you use the word for? It's like,
Just be together,
yeah,
just to be
yeah,
together. Know
yeah,
that you're not alone. Know that you're not the only person that this has happened to.
yeah, yeah. Well, congratulations on how far you come, and this is beautiful. I love what you're saying. And I've learned something today. Like I said, I did not know that there were different yogas for cancer and for arthritis or anything like that. So, uh, and to find the right one, definitely. So where can our listeners find you?
Well, I'm kind of like a bad penny on social media. I just keep showing up. You can find me at Trauma Healing Yoga. My website is traumahealingyoga.com. I have free meditations there if you are interested. It's a body scan meditation. It's beautiful. Feel free to go there and get your download. I have an app, again, Google Play or Apple. It's Trauma Healing Yoga. It's
You.
the only place I don't think I am. I'm not on like TikTok because I'm not that groovy. I'm kind of old.
Oh,
Facebook.
okay. You know what? Now I am so hurt because I know I'm older than you, and I'm on TikTok.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. There was you know, there's grandmas on there and they're loved like crazy, and there's an older couple, my age probably, you know, when that do dancing and they get tons of views. Like there's so many
Great.
different and I know that, like, I mean, this is a little bit off of our, you know, podcast, but seriously,
No.
TikTok is an everything, everybody, because there's different people are looking for different things, right? And it's fun and it's addictive, though. That's the only thing I will have to say. And you say you've got to watch it because it's addictive. You sit there and you go, I'm going to watch 10 minutes and you're on it for like, you know, 2 hours later.
3 hours.
But no, definitely be
Yeah.
out there, because I think that your personality and your humor and getting the word out, right, listeners? I think that this is true. That that would be lovely for you to join the TikTok and make sure that you add me. I am that gal. That is me. I am that gal.
You are that gal.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
that's
company
the
name.
only thing I'm not on.
Oh,
I've got Pinterest and I'm
yeah.
like everywhere else, but just not there. I just don't feel like I'm groovy enough. I don't know. I think my kids would die if they knew I was on TikTok.
My daughter told me to get on it. I'm
My
turning
boys are
60 next week. So yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So
No, I
there's
think
no age.
well, my boys are still, like one is 17 and one is 21. And so they're still like totally embarrassed by me. So,
Of course.
I mean, I get up in the morning and they're embarrassed. So,
And it doesn't get any better. They're always embarrassed of you from that point on. until they have
fabulous. That's
until
really
they have
what I
their own
wanted to hear.
children. And then all of a sudden you're cool when they have your own children, and then you have to, mommy, help me. This has been lovely. Really, really appreciate you being my guest. And thank you for sharing this. I think that there's a lot of people out there who need to hear it. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care, and we'll be in touch.
Great.